Tell us about how we would rewire ourselves out from an unwanted pathway and creating new ones.
So the simple answer is repetition. Now, when you're young, that repetition is boosted by myelin. But once you're out of your myelin years, of which we don't know exactly, but in your 20s, it takes a lot of repetition to build a new pathway, but you can do it. So the idea is to choose, in order to repeat, I use the analogy of slashing a new trail through the jungle. It's a lot of work, and it's so much work just to take one step that you'll say, why am I doing this? I'm going to go back to the highway, even though the highway goes to a yucky place rather than a nice place. So if you slash that trail with all that effort, then you go back the next day, the trail has grown over. And then you got to do all the slashing again. But if you slash the same trail every day, then a pathway starts to establish, and then you can just flow. And so the idea is to define that new pathway very specifically so that you can repeat it every day. So to do that, you want to start with, what do I need? And all of the books explain this in a slightly different way, depending on the book. You're in that moment when you were either tempted to use that thing that's bad for you, or you're telling yourself something negative. And in that moment, how can I feed my brain an alternative that feels good now, but also is not bad for me in the future?
Yes, and this is also another reason why I became a big fan of your work because you gave a brilliant concept of, okay, let's say you have these habits, unwanted habits, and you're trying to create healthy new habits. You said one of the keys is to have a plan in place. So because when you come up to that moment where you've developed the habit of a long day of work and you walk in the door and the first thing you do is self-soothe by having some Pop Tarts or whatever it is, or that glass of wine or the cigarette or whatever it is that you just don't think you want to do that
Or
behavior.
even yelling at somebody.
Yeah, okay, whatever. Yep. So pick your insert in unwanted behavior there. But what you suggest is to have a plan in place so you can activate it without having to think about it. And so you have your go-to plan B. And what I'm hearing you say, correct me if I don't get this, is at first it's going to be hard to create a new habit. That's why, because you're slashing with your machete through the jungle of weeds to create the new path. But if you keep doing it and have that ready plan B in place, already predetermined, that eventually that path will start to wear. And the path is almost like a muddy road, right? It gets the treads get deeper and deeper with more times you drive over it, and that's what becomes an unconscious automatic habit. Do I have that right?
Yes, perfect, exactly. And the idea that when you first do it, it's going to feel hard. It's not going to feel natural and normal. And so you're tempted to go back to the other. But after a while, you will start to flow, and it will start to feel like who you are. But the old pathway will still be there to tempt you, but the new pathway will start to feel more natural.